That's exactly what happened. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and Owen and Tristan will lead us with a prayer and a song to start out.
Please join me as we pray. Holy God, as we come together this day to honor you with the work that you have done and continue to do in your church, God, I pray your blessing on this meeting and our time together. May it be informative. May it be edifying. May our comments, questions, and anything that we offer up be in line with those two and glorify and honor you. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to share in ministry together. Lord, in all that we decide today and all that we decide going forward, Lord, may it be for your mission of making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Lord, we give you this next hour. We give you our hearts and our minds and our words. It's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Would you stand with me as we sing together, God of Grace and God of Glory? Be seated.
Welcome, church members. I'm so glad you could all join us today. We view this meeting as not just a planning and governance meeting for the following year, but a celebration for what we've accomplished for God's kingdom in this past year. With that in mind, there is a lot to celebrate because it's been an exciting year for our church in many ways. Our mission and ministry slide. Is it up over here? There we go. I'd like to start off the meeting by providing a mission and ministry report that takes a look at all of our church accomplishments last year. As a reminder of our church mission, which is this catalyst for all we do, is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. In our guiding purpose, that dictates that we should be spending our time and focus on as the body of Christ. The macro areas of focus. In 2024, we met at our annual meeting, and under the umbrella of that mission statement, we agreed to focus our attention on the following three areas as a church. I'd like to take a brief moment to look at those and what we've done the last year. The core values, First, we have core values of the membership. At last year's meeting, we voted to approve these core values, and since then, we've revised our membership vows to reference these values, posted these core values on the church website and our church literature so that those interested in knowing more about our church membership can easily find them. We hosted our first new members class with a curriculum that dove deeper into these 6 areas. You may also recognize these values because we also put them on the back of our church t-shirts so that when we are out and about, people can see these shirts and easily know what we stand for. While these won't be our area of specific focus in 2024, while they were in 2024, you should continue to see more and more mention of these core values, and our church staff continues to integrate them in their day-to-day operations. Second, I'd like to touch base on the spiritual growth and leadership development. As our church leadership and staff planned and worked and evaluated ministry this year, we did so with these points in mind. We continue to do the things that are yielding spiritual growth and maturity. And we're constantly evaluating the things that are not yielding spiritual growth, maturity, and either make changes or stop doing them as a staff and as a congregation. We try new things to continue helping and challenging our members step up into spiritual growth and maturity. This practice has helped us to see great spiritual growth and maturity in our members through their participation and involvement in many different areas of ministry. And so while 2024 has ended, our focus on spiritual growth and leadership has not. Our staff and membership will continue asking these same questions in all that we do. Finally, in 2024, we rounded up our areas of focus by placing an emphasis on planning for the future needs of our church. We're going to get into much greater detail about that at the last half of this meeting. What all has been done in 2024 to work towards this goal, later in the meeting, we'll discuss that. At the last meeting, we voted to approve the exploration of our building needs. This includes the organization of the building team to oversee the project and report and answer to the church board. In addition to this, also includes the formation of a building fund, which we've done both of those things. These items were accomplished in this last year. Now I'd like to ask Pastor Owen to come up and share the baptism and membership portion.
Okay, thank you, Lee. As you guys noticed in your packets, we have seen God do some incredible things in the life of our church over the last year. This includes, in 2024, 13 baptisms. There's a great picture of us. We did those baptisms outside, and it was freezing cold, and we still had some comers. Remember that 2024 was also a year in which we did not have a confirmation class. And so we said we're going to do that on an every other year basis for the size of class and things like that. On top of 13 baptisms, 5 adults and 8 children and youth, we also had many new members added to our church, 37 new members. And you may recognize some of these names of all of these families. It's very, very exciting to see new faces. As I mentioned this morning in church, I constantly and continually have people at Wednesday night dinner or at other events saying, hey, who's that couple over there? And I'll say, hey, that's the Grays. They've been here for 2 years. Whatever it may be. So super excited about that. And what a joy. What can at first be awkward is actually a joy to get to see our church grow in ways that we can't keep up with everybody all at once, all the time. So that's very, very exciting. Also, with our updates on discipleship and what we have going on, I shared something 2 weeks ago with us about our hopes for the church and what it means to be a disciple. And I just want to remind us, I told you guys we'd be bringing this up again, and we're going to see this throughout the year. Discipleship has at least 5 pieces to it. I like 5 because I have 4 fingers and a thumb on my right hand. That helps me remember it. That works pretty good for a Methodist in most things. We said first, a disciple is someone with a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Secondly, we said a disciple is someone who reads, studies, and shares in Scripture with others. Third, we said that a disciple is someone who lives in Christian community and accountability. That's part of being a part of a small group, part of being a part of a Sunday school class, and of course, the church body. We also said that discipleship certainly includes serving and caring for others, especially those outside of the fellowship of the church. And of course, as part of being a disciple, not just a believer, not just a member, but a disciple means sharing Christ with others. We talked about how that was to include invitation and welcome and prayer for others as they come to be in fellowship with the church. Now, also another thing that I'm excited to share with you guys is a look at our attendance numbers over the last few years. Now, I'm going to ask you something weird. I'm going to ask you to read this from right to left. Look at our numbers there for 2021. We're fully open, fully back from COVID. If you exclude Easter and Christmas Eve services, because those are different, we had 126 people per Sunday on average in 2021. Now, if you skip over a couple, look at the progression there, and it shows that we have 184 per Sunday on average in the last year, excluding Easter and Christmas. This shows some really great growth and some exciting things going on as people are welcomed and involved. I'm excited to, as we'll talk about plans later, talk about our nursery. I remember when we hired Miss Barbara 4 years ago, and we said, look, we need someone who can be in the nursery, that can be paid to be in the nursery, that can be paid to show up and be here on time. And then she waited. And she waited Sunday after Sunday for kids to be in the nursery. And now we've got like 14 kids in there on any given Sunday, and that's just 4 and under. Of course, you all see the myriad of kids that in first and second service come down. It's such an exciting time to see families and children and grandchildren with us on Sunday morning. Now, of course, part of involvement and connection to the church, Sunday is a really, really big part of people beginning that journey. And with that in mind, I want to give us a short reminder. I think you have a piece in your packet there with some of the things that we've participated in on Sunday mornings. Just a quick highlight, we've been through 10 sermon series, including a second go at Neighborly November recently. We also have had 2 distinct options for the entire year, a traditional worship service, and we changed our second service from a blended service to a full contemporary service with Miss Tristan leading both services, and we've seen some great growth and success in second service with that. Also, as you'll see a little bit more, some pictures of, we've had 4 special music programs, including our Christmas cantata, The Star Factor, The King and Me, and of course, our Good Friday service that was so moving. And then you'll see here on the far side, Ash Wednesday, Palm Sunday, Easter service, our All Saints celebration and dove release, and of course, all of our Christmas Eve services. So that's really, really a beautiful thing to get to look back. I don't know if you're like me, but I'm so busy looking at February, March, and April right now. Looking back at October, November, December is a little bit harder. So, of course, discipleship may start on Sunday morning, but it is hopefully just the beginning. Now, all of our church operations focus on sharing the gospel and making disciples, as Lee told us a little bit earlier. And so instead of continuing to read a long list for you, our staff, as I teased earlier in the morning, has prepared kind of an overview of the last year. And of course, it's narrated by one of our very own church members. I won't tell you who it is, but I bet you'll recognize his voice. So would you partake in this video with us this morning or this afternoon?
It's been an awesome year of ministry and discipleship at Glen Rose First Methodist Church. Our children's ministry is flourishing. Our Wednesday night numbers have increased since last year. In fall of 2023, we were averaging 25 kids per Wednesday, and by the end of this fall, we were up to an average of 30 kids per week. Over the summer, we organized a phenomenal vacation Bible school called Start the Party. We had 99 kids in attendance, and the students raised $865 to provide food for our Nourish Food Pantry. Our kids really brought the music and drama this year. They sang songs during worship on Palm Sunday and All Saints Sunday and shared biblical stories and truth with their performances of The Star Factor in August and The King and Me in December. We also had a great attendance at Lord's Acre, where the children's ministry worked to provide activities and crafts during the silent and live auctions. Due to our growing numbers, we also started a preschool age Sunday school class that has been going great and really gives our 3 to 5-year-olds a more focused time to learn about God's love. We're also growing in our nursery and have had to make adjustments and recruit more volunteers, as we are seeing about 10 to 15 children serve in this area every Sunday and Wednesday night. This coming year, we are looking forward to growing our children's ministry even more through fun and engaging programs and activities. We've also seen a significant growth in our youth ministry in 2024. On Wednesday nights this fall, we had a few weeks where we had 40 youth attending, and we finished the fall semester averaging 31 youth each week. Last year's average was 21. This growth has made it hard to fit all the youth in the basement, so we moved our programming to the sanctuary. This move has been good, as it allows us to worship, a devotional time, and then be able to split into small groups. Because of our growth, we've recruited more adults to help. We have 6 to 7 youth volunteers serving each week. We have also started a student leadership team with 5 students currently serving on it. In July, we went on a mission trip to Mansfield, Texas, and brought 14 students and 7 adults. In 2025, we have a youth retreat planned with another church, planning on going on a mission trip to San Antonio, and many other engaging and meaningful things in the works. Music ministry for 2024 has been great. We gained a couple of new choir members, and our choir has been improving and expanding our horizon with different pieces of music. We average around 12 people in our choir each week. We also made the change this year from blended worship music to contemporary in the second service. Our 2023 average attendance was 55. Our 2024 average attendance is 60. While Elaine was out of commission due to her shoulder surgery, Bonna did an excellent job filling in and shuffling from playing the organ to the piano. On December 22nd, our choir finished off the year with our Christmas cantata, A Thrill of Hope, with 18 choir members participating. We've seen a substantial growth in our adult ministry offerings this year. We've seen an increase in adults participating in Wednesday night Bible study and a study over the Chosen series that were both well attended. We also began preparations for kicking off Stephen Ministry by recruiting 3 leaders who will help to get this ministry up and going in 2025. Our women's ministry had their first women's retreat in years with a phenomenal 48 women in attendance, and 5 different women's groups have all seen great participation this year. We also put forth a significant effort to get our men's ministry connected this year through a men's fish fry, a Father's Day softball game, a men's mission day, and the creation of an all-pro dad chapter at the intermediate school. Our missions ministry has been busy in 2024. We held our first ever International Cuisine Cook-Off fundraiser last January and raised over $700 for missions throughout the year. In May, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary of Nourish Food Pantry, which serves food boxes to families in need. We're currently serving about 100 families each week, and we are the only food bank in Somerville County that allows families to receive food every week. In November, our food bank received a grant from Somerville County for $6,200 to help us continue feeding these families in 2025. During the summer, we were able to collect and distribute school supplies to 135 students in Glen Rose ISD through our school supply drive and shopping day. In the fall, we raised $5,657 for the Living Water Mission Project to bring clean water to a community in Honduras. We also sent over 100 Operation Christmas Child boxes to children around the world this Christmas season. And we finished off the year by blessing our local health and safety employees with Christmas baskets at their offices on Christmas Eve through our Silent Night project. We believe all these ministry efforts have helped us in our goal of creating heightened focus on spiritual growth and leadership development. And we're excited about what God is going to do in adult ministry in 2025. And while our ministries were growing this year, our trustees team and diligent maintenance staff member, Roy, were working hard to ensure our ministries could continue taking place in and around our buildings. Besides the routine maintenance needed on our sprawling campus, they've been hard at work addressing the delayed necessary maintenance projects, like campus-wide tree trimming, lock replacement and maintenance on all buildings, replacing a water-damaged wall in our food pantry, slip-resistant paint on outdoor stairs, sanctuary and Family Life Center roof and shingle repair, mounting a large-screen TV and speakers in the Family Life Center, replacement of the doors at the sanctuary and office, water heater replacements in the office and the Family Life Center, remounting and stabilizing speakers in the sanctuary, replacing worn and water-damaged siding on the sanctuary, purchasing a new AC unit for a failing unit in the sanctuary. Looking back at all that we accomplished in 2024 as a portion of the body of Christ, I'm reminded of the Apostle Peter's words, "Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms." We've seen our members do just this in the past year. Whether you held babies in the nursery, handed out bulletins and smiles on Sunday mornings, loaded boxes of food in cars at Nourish, led a group of kids at Vacation Bible School, cooked for Wednesday nights, served barbecue at Lord's Acre, chaperoned a youth event, led adults in a Bible study, or participated in one of the other thousands of ways in 2024, we want to say thank you. The church isn't the building. It's the people who worship there and then go out into the world to share the good news of God's love with everyone else. Thank you for being the church in 2024. We can't wait to see how God works through this church in 2025.
Incredible things have been accomplished. That's amazing. This congregation is a pretty good-looking potato head. Next, I'm going to ask Tracy to come up and give us a finance report. I want to tell y'all all that Tracy is critical to the operations of the church. He does such a good job in taking care of our accounting that we never have to worry about it on the board, and it's just an amazing gift to all of us.
Thanks, Lee. I wasn't expecting that. And for those of you that didn't know, that was Max Bly a moment ago, so that's a hard act to follow there. I could stand up here for hours just talking about financial statements, but I'm sure that's not what you came here for. But we picked out a few highlights, and we'll go over those. But I don't do that by myself. We have a finance team that works with me and helps ensure that we're good stewards of your donations. And I'd just like to mention those folks real quick. Daryl Best, Wade Bush, Julie Locke, Pam Martin, Joe Cathy, and Shelley Hooper. So they have been tremendous to work with, and look forward to 2025. Okay, to start out with, we ended the year with almost $150,000 in cash. That's in a few different locations. We've got about $58,000 our operating account. We have a balance of around $12,000 in our building capital fund, and $1,700 in some other accounts such as Sunday school and things like that. We also have about $77,000 in a certificate of deposit. A year ago, when interest rates were high, we locked into a 5% rate. We just couldn't pass it up. We had the money just sitting in our bank doing nothing, and we proposed it to the board, let's go ahead and invest it, because we really didn't need that on a monthly basis to operate on, so let's put it to work. And we did that, and last year we earned about $5,200 in interest. So that was, I don't want to say free money, but that's money we wouldn't have otherwise raised. Moving into revenue, you can see there we budgeted about $501,000, and actually we received about $585,000. So that was well above what we budgeted. But I wanted to point out in that $585,000, we started that capital fund into the year. That when we did our budget at the end of 2023, the building capital fund wasn't in existence. And if you recall from last year at the members meeting, that's when we decided, okay, we need to go ahead and get that building capital fund in place. We did. And during the year, we raised a little over $37,000 for the building capital fund. Also, in this number, the $585,000 was Lord's Acre, and this year we brought in about $42,000 in Lord's Acre money between donations and sales, so that's in that number as well. And I mentioned earlier the $5,200 in interest from the CD. Expenditures, at first glance, you're going, wow, that's a lot of money. It is. But here in a minute, and actually Max already went over a lot of that in his video, we've spent almost $100,000 in upgrades and maintenance and things breaking and wood rotting and tree trimming. I mean, a bunch of stuff that just had to be done. If we didn't do it, it was only going to get worse and cost more money. Thank goodness we had the money, so we did that. And we feel that a lot of these repairs are well beyond most of our lifetimes, and we won't have to worry about it anymore. Also, in that expense number is about $25,000 that we have spent thus far in this building campaign. And Lee will get into that in a little bit. But the $25,000 out of that $37,000 that we've raised was for the architectural drawings, renderings. We did a full topography of the entire campus and discovered some interesting things. But keep in mind, the money we spend on the building project is coming solely out of our building account that we have raised separate and above our budget. So no money for the building campaign is coming out of our operating account for budgeted expenses. We always budget revenue and expenses the same. We hope to be break even at the end of the year. We're not in business to make a big profit. If we have money coming in, we want to spend that on our ministry and missions. So we budgeted zero, and just it looks like we lost $20,000. I guess you can say that, but that doesn't mean we overdrew our account. As you can see, we had plenty of cash. That didn't mean we're in debt. We had the cash, we needed the repairs, and that's why it kind of took us over the top there. So that's the reason for that $20,000 loss for the year. Okay, moving. I'm not going to go over these in detail. Max already covered these, so I'm going to leave that there for just a few seconds. Y'all can scan through that. Probably the biggest item is the very last thing, and we did this right before the end of the year, and Max mentioned it, is one of our AC units here in the sanctuary. We've been putting Band-Aids on that thing forever and spending a lot of money, and we finally, the board voted to let's stop the bleeding, let's get a new one. We did, and that's really what kind of put us in that loss mode, was buying that new air conditioner. And we have members that are going to help us install that, thank goodness. And even though it's an expensive purchase, we're getting out probably half of what we would have to spend, in the open market. So I'm not sure exactly when the install date is. We have the equipment, but we will be installing that HVAC unit here probably within the next month. Okay, moving into annual giving. As you can see, this is a 4-year snapshot. We've been steadily rising for the last 4 years. As you see at the top there, we have some outliers, and we wanted to kind of take those out so we could get a true feel of actual giving to the church. In 2021, we received a $10,000 grant from the United Methodist Conference. In 2022, that's when we started the disaffiliation process, and we raised almost $70,000 over and above our giving to help us through the transition when we disaffiliated. And then last year, as I mentioned, we started the Building Capital Fund, and not in that $542,000 is $37,000 in fundraising for the capital account for the building. So that is our giving. And then lastly, the budget. We've increased our budget slightly. I prefer not to get, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to budget too high on the revenue side, because our expenses are also tied to that. And I would rather budget something reasonable. It's more than we budgeted last year, and I believe we will exceed that. We did last year. But I also want to make sure that what we budget on the expense side is attainable, and that we do those things without having to worry about the money being in the bank. So that's why you see the same number for the revenue and expenses and a budget of 0 profit at the end of the year. And again, none of these numbers include any fundraising for the building campaign. Just picture that as almost standing on its own. We will not spend any money on the building project unless we have raised it on the income side. So it's out there all by itself. That really is a summary of the finances for 2024. I always like to say our books are open to anybody. If you are the kind of person that enjoys that and you want to make an appointment, I'd be happy to meet you at the office, and we can do a deep dive. We can go through all 12 months and probably 10,000 transactions. If that's what you like, then I'm all in. So if you want to do that, call, make an appointment, and I'll meet you down here. I see Pat laughing. I know he's going to be the first one to volunteer. So that's finances for the year. I'd be happy to take any questions maybe after the meeting if you have any. Otherwise, we will move on.
Thank you for your dedication. Owen will now present the nominations for the board and all the committees.
Following a long Methodist tradition, something that we've continued with here at Glen Rose First Methodist Church, as pastor, I have the pleasure of serving as our chair of our nominations team. We have some nominations to put before you. Before we do that, I do want to thank Lee and Tracy again for their leadership, along with many others. I think we have a slide for our 2024 lay leadership here. Just a quick review. I don't know if you have that in your packet, but we have our board chair, Lee McGee, our finance chair, Tracy Byers, as you know, our SPR team chair, Cody Stone, our trustees team chair is Tom Wyatt, our Lord's Acre team chair was Philip Dempsey for 2024. If you served on one of these committees or teams for the last year, would you stand? We'd like to recognize you. Go ahead, it's okay. Thank you all very much for your time and your talents and your help continuing to steer our church as we follow Christ. Now, as I mentioned, we have one more slide. These are our nomination team nominations for 2025, 2026. And now, for those that may be new to the church, our nominations team meets every fall. We pray over, we discuss, and we go through a process of finding out where on all of these teams here, as they're listed, do we have folks rolling off based on our bylaws. And then we pray on those, we consider those. We put some names up on the board for members that might be available and willing to serve in those capacities. And when we come to a decision, then we take those to the church board for their approval to bring those to the membership for an approval vote. Now, each term runs February 1st through January 31st. That works because your vote is important as a member of this church. We've set it off just a little bit, so they will serve part of next year, just the month of January. And of course, this needs approval by the membership. So Lee, I'm going to call you back up for our proposal.
We need a motion to approve the nominations that have been presented. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, and as we continue on, did you get the motion and the second, Donna? I think it was Pat Bruce, Larry Wilson. Perfect, thank you. Hey, we forgot to thank Donna for being our active secretary in our meeting today and throughout the year. Okay, and so now I want to take you on a fun and exciting journey of macro areas of focus for 2025. And as we talked about these, we decided on two to present to you. First is hospitality and connection, and then also planning for the future. Now, many of you have noticed that we have tried in the last year at great efforts to connect with visitors and guests through our Connect Center. You all checked in at our Connect Center this morning and this afternoon, either to see pictures of our build project or to make sure we had your name spelled and checked for our meeting. Now, what we noticed in 2024 is that it was hard for us as a staff, even when we were all making an effort to get back there to catch folks before they exited the sanctuary, as we have a lot of follow-up and that kind of thing, some going to Sunday school, some praying with folks up front as we end service. Now, we know part of this is growing pains. It's a good thing. It's an exciting thing to have more people than a staff of 5 or 6 can catch all at once. Now, of course, we also realize the importance of making a good first impression so our visitors will return and come and join in fellowship with us. I recently came across a quote that I wanted to share with you all. It says, "You can't take a week off when it comes to genuinely welcoming newcomers." Now, of course, this prompted me to look into the data and see exactly what Scott McConnell was talking about. You see, in 2023, Lifeway Research did a survey that showed that more than 3 in 4 churchgoers who experience personal welcomes, invites to social events, and contact after a worship service said it positively impacted their decision to attend that congregation or gathering regularly. Of course, like most good pastors do, after gathering information, they take these to the pastor's wife for conversation. So I did that. It's in the pastor book of rules. No. So Natalie and I, we started talking about this and hey, how can we do better in this area with our staff? And so with that research on our minds and the loss of one of our staff people in October as she moved on to other things, our church admin, we took the opportunity with the permission of the SPRC to look closely not only at our staff vacancy, but also at our needs, to look at our needs as a congregation and how we might shift staff roles around to make sure that we are a part of good connection for folks in our congregation. Now, as many of you know, this was something that we didn't take lightly and took a lot of time planning, but we decided our real need wasn't administration, but more help in this area, along with missions. So we created a new position called a ministry assistant. Does that sound like a catch-all or what? A new ministry assistant. And as many of you know, Donna joined our staff at the beginning of the year, and she has hit the ground running. She is our new ministry assistant, and one of her main focuses is hospitality and connection. Now, we now have her available at the Connection Center following every service and during service for families who come in late, who have a need outside of this room, or have a child that is wondering, where can I get a coloring page? Some of you are wondering that too. Ask Donna. She'll also be in charge of following up with our visitors and also our new members to help them get connected and to be a part of our ministry. And I think you all know that she is off to an incredibly well done job just after a few weeks. Donna's also going to be with us and the rest of our staff as we connect on Wednesday evenings to greet and connect. Donna, we've teased Donna that her job is to memorize everyone's names and faces, and we will try to grow the church too fast for her to do that. And she'll also be taking over as our staff liaison to our Worship Engagement Advisory Council that does many things, but also oversees our volunteers and our welcoming atmosphere for our worship services. So that's really, really exciting, and we're so blessed to have Donna here. So we believe that adding Donna to our staff is just the first piece of better hospitality and connection. Now that we've got her in place to really zero in this one area, we believe we'll be able to better review what we've been doing, make changes, and create new ways of welcoming and connecting with other people. Of course, our church is made up of more than just staff and our processes or procedures or programs. It really comes down to our membership. And so this year, we hope you'll take the opportunity to engage in hospitality and connection along with us. Now, we do these in many different areas as we all take a part and welcome others to join us. Now, we're hoping that by bringing attention to these macro areas of focus, all of us will begin to look at how we interact with others both on campus and away from our campus through the lens of hospitality and connection. And so, Lee, I'm going to ask you to come and bring forth our resolution for our first macro area focus.
All right, we need a motion for us to adopt a heightened focus of hospitality and connection in 2025 through intentional review and planning, implementation by staff and volunteers. So I need a motion for that. Who said that?
Joe Cathy.
Joe Cathy. Do I have a second? Cindy McGee. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. This slide is, I think, part of last year's.
Yeah, the second part is planning for the future.
Yeah, and then the planning for the future. And this is the resolution we passed last year and implemented to review the grounds and to set up the building fund and to set up the building design team. So we'll go on to the timeline of implementing that. This is roughly what has been done last year according to that resolution. At the beginning of the year, we set up a team of Cindy McGee, Justin Pels, and Susan Bruce to be the design team and to really figure out what the needs are. And incredible team. Really, three really good people. But I must confess, I'm partial to one. Go figure. But they started working on it, and we spent a lot of time trying to solve the handicap accessibility around the church on this side of our campus. And it's almost the definition of insanity. We would get renderings and not have a clue of how to make them fit on the side of a hill next to a 110-year-old church that is so beautiful. So we just had all these stumbling blocks of where we could not really get it to work. So we finally decided and started asking around about an architect. And Brian Gaffin in Granbury is who we settled on from people's recommendations and from his experience. And the good thing about it is he's been raised in a Methodist church, has 40 years experience, and really likes working on historical things like you would expect from an architect who spent 40 years in Granbury. So after the insanity of 6 months of trying to figure out how to fit something on here, we got Brian involved, and he suggested doing an overall site plan. And so we did that, in which did all of the topographic and property lines, because we did not even really know where our property lines are in many cases. It's very confusing, as it can only be in Glen Rose. You need to really check all that stuff anytime you're doing anything. But so we started out with that. That took a couple of months. And then Brian started working on it. And we got to the point of trying to figure out how to do the handicap parking. The next slide. It goes over the survey results. We all are familiar with that. That's the front rendering. And then the next slide really represents the three phases, three pieces of property that we have. And Brian was working on those, and we had to break them out. And just focus on the sanctuary side. Go back to the one that showed the, I don't know if you can really see it best there, the one after that. And I would encourage you to ask any questions as the slide comes up instead of waiting to the end, because it will probably be easier to answer them with the slide. You can see on the restroom building where the land, they didn't clear it back. And that's why it's leaked from the day it was built. And we were trying to figure out what to do there and how to get level parking. When you're doing ADA accessibility, it doesn't start at the handicap ramp. It starts where you park the car. And that gets really complex on the side of a hill. And so Brian, we're talking about that, and he's like, the building leaks. And he says in 40 years that he's been an architect, he said he's seen many leaks, but he's never seen one that's not explainable and not fixable. So it is fixable, and we need to hammer out behind there. That needs to be the first thing we do, whether we leave it as a storage building or we improve it with what we're proposing. It should have been done initially, and it was not done. And consequently, the building is leaked from the very beginning. And now we have a storeroom that was intended to be a nursery initially when we redid that building because we didn't fix the leak. First thing we need to do is fix the leak. Even if we did no other improvement, we need to fix the leak, and that requires hammering out that rock and diverting the water off the side of the building. As simple as that, we believe. All right, we can go to the next slide. Any questions about that? How are we going to fix it? We're going to get the water from running off the hill from hitting the building. I don't know if they did. They did a poor job of it. I mean, we got to get in there with a jackhammer and hammer it all out 4 or 5 feet and get it done.
On that question, ask them to come to the mic. When I was a trustee back in whatever it was, 13, 14, 15, the city made a change on that hill.
Mm-hmm.
And they built a drainage ditch.
Mm-hmm.
It comes right down off of that, and I don't think they could do that. And I think if we got some legal to look into that, we'd say they were responsible for forcing water from everybody's property up there on that hill right down in the back of this building.
Very well could be.
I was told at the time, yes, but then we kind of, got into it. It doesn't seem to be bothering us, but I think it does. And they literally built you can go and find this, the concrete
Right.
wheel. It wasn't there. They built it within the year or two that I was trustee up there. They built this way.
And it was been leaking from the get-go from people who, and so the logical solution is to pull the rock away from it.
You're right, and I think we could maybe help ourselves by checking into the city's right to force water down our throats.
Right. Any other questions? All right, the next slide is just a rendering of the front of it. We're removing all the handicap to the very front. Like I said, when you really start understanding the ADA, it starts from where you park your car. And so this is an example of where there will not even be a sidewalk. It will be level and just bumper curbs for the cars to where someone does not have to jump even an inch or two of the.
Does the ramp go up?
It does. Hmm?
Does the ramp go up?
Yes, yeah, yeah, the one right before it, I think. You can see clearly it goes up and then back. The existing restroom building is 22 inches below this building. So we have to have a ramp inside it to get from it to into this grade. it's quite the challenge. But Brian, I think, really knows what he's doing and did a good job with that. Any questions about that slide, about that picture? Max? 6 to 8. And see, you have to have additional spacing between them. But to take that front parking is very good use of it. And I would argue this is the first time in the existence of this church that it's properly ADA accessible. That's quite an accomplishment. I feel really good about getting that right.
Will all parking around this side also be corrected as opposed to along with what's in front?
You're saying, will we repave the side parking? Is that your question? We hope to have the money in this budget to do that. He has not drawn anything on that. It just simply needs paving on this side over here. And hopefully we can fit that into the whole thing to where it's a nice clean look all the way around. We have to move the retaining walls in. And so it's going to affect, and it may be a good time to address the side parking as well, I would think, to flesh it in there. Next slide. Yes.
This really doesn't have anything to do with parking, it's more appearance. But our logo has the outline of the church with a cross on top. And has it ever been considered to put a cross, nothing, just a wooden cross up on top of the peak? The logo made me think of it because it's the outline of our church, but the logo has a cross on it. And I know this is purely cosmetic, but it would look beautiful with a cross on it.
I agree with you. I want to emphasize these are renderings. These are not construction plans. Much more detailed corrections of the logo and what the design team wants and what the committee wants will be walked through when we are getting to construction plans.
Has anybody ever thought of that? Or
I'm sorry?
has anyone ever thought of doing that, of adding a cross?
I've not heard any discussion of it, but we certainly can consider that as they're designing it. Yeah, it would look beautiful, for sure. Joan? I think the truth of the matter is we're about a foot over it. And I prefer not to really talk about that. It even gets a little bit more interesting than that. We don't own that property next to the bathroom building. Yeah. Like we've been doing. And we're in discussions with them. The city owns it. That's a dedicated road. The 25 years I've been here, everybody said we owned the lot next to us and then 2 more lots. The survey we did clearly shows we don't own it. The city owns it. Now, it was dedicated over 100 years ago. They obviously don't intend to build a road. I've requested and met with them 3 times to ask them to give us that, and we're going to wait and see what happens. I think I'm hopeful that common sense will prevail at some point. We'll see. But no. That's the facts. We don't own it.
You might remind them that there was a dedicated road between the family center and the house over there too, and the city did abandon that for us.
I'm hopeful. I think common sense will prevail. We do have a little bit of a bargaining chip. I really wasn't going to get into this, but it's very confusing. The road, Mustang Road in front of the Family Life Center is encroaching 15 feet onto our property that is now a city road. So I've told them that we would gladly trade that 15 feet for the 50 next to us. And it should have already been done, but it hasn't. And we'll see. We'll keep asking. Hopefully it will. Yeah, prayer. And none of what we're doing here should affect, it does not increase our encroachment, does not interfere with anything that we have going on. If we were adding on, we would certainly have to get that land before we could do that. Yes?
When we start building this part where the bathrooms were, where would people go to the bathroom?
On the city land. Hopefully, we're going to attempt to keep it operational during this. One of the things that not only the building team and many other people approached how to do this was tearing down the bathroom building and building a whole new building right there. One that would allow us to get to the same grade as this, but we'd have to do all of the handicap accessibility from outside, so on and so forth. There's lots of things that was kind of the path we took at the beginning. And then we realized the restrooms themselves, we can't build better ones. They're good. The building leaks. And it doesn't have a lot of good street appeal. And so then we start digging a little deeper and realize, you know, it's a $400,000 savings using that building versus tearing that down and building the same square footage and not any better bathrooms. So the motivation to start figuring out how to fix a leak gets really high. There's about $400,000 motivation. And there's no reason we cannot fix the leak. We just need to do it right and get in there and hammer the rock out and get it below the slab and create a trough for that water to go around. Any other questions about that one? Let's go to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the other Matthew.
I was just curious, are there any plans being made for the annex building once this is done?
Which,
For the building out here where the nursery currently is?
no, we've not studied doing anything there. Now we're going to take the nursery out of that, and no, we've not had any other plans for that.
So while jackhammering back here around buildings, is that going to hurt the structure integrity of the buildings while jackhammering?
Great question.
Because I would imagine we'd probably have to use an excavator with a big jackhammer on it versus a man one.
We're going to try to do the manual ones. And Philip, he's not here today because they're sick, has a crew that does that for Encore. And he's talking to them in the last week or two.
They were out here looking at it this past week.
Were they?
I don't know what
But our concern is that the construction type in the annex building and this building is different than modern construction. This is double rocked wall, and they're load bearing. There's no steel or wood framing. And so we really don't want to shake the whole downtown doing this. So we may do a little bit at a time and try to do it with just jackhammers and patience.
I got you. So when that does start, how can we tell if nothing's happening to the buildings though?
I don't have an answer to that. I mean, we're going to have to be mindful of what's going on while they're doing it. And I was extremely nervous about bringing in a big hammer on excavator. I think if we can do it by hand, we have a higher probability of not damaging.
Yes, I do agree on that. So to a certain extent, you could do it all by hand, manual. And then after that, I believe you're probably going to have to go further than 4 feet, also just to make the water stay away from the buildings.
Right.
And then to where we're able to go deeper. A lot of it's just going to be time consuming, so.
It is.
In my opinion, that's where
We've
an excavator would end up coming
budgeted
in handy.
$50,000 to do it.
Okay.
And we may very well take all of that. I hope
Yes, sir,
not.
I do believe. I think it's probably going to double.
I hope
It's
not.
all- I hope not either, but
But
it's,
it needs to be done irregardless.
Yes, sir.
And it needs to be done mindful of our surroundings, of the buildings that we have and the type structures they are. You don't want a real big track hole hammering next to the walls of this church. You have broken windows, you'll have lots of problems.
yep.
And we got to be careful. It's going to be tricky, but we do believe it can be done.
Yep. But I figured I'd bring that up, though.
It's a good point.
Put him on the committee.
You can be in charge of the digging.
I do part of that on a daily basis.
That's right.
Exactly where are the leaks? I'm talking about where they're exactly leaking, but where is it coming out? Is it the perimeter wall?
Yeah, it's the back wall predominantly. No, there is, and it gets into voodoo. It happens about once every 5 years, and I've never seen it. Natalie's seen it. It comes up in the bathrooms with the women's bathroom wall by it. That could be coming from the roof. I've heard people say that there's a spring underneath it, and when in the wet year, the spring pushes up through the slab.
Most of the water's coming from the slab. I've mopped vacuumed that thing up numerous times. It's coming through the slab because of the way they built it. They built it when they got $100, they went and poured a little piece of slab, they got another $100, they went and poured it, and they never put water stops between any of the pourers. So everywhere they have a spot, water gets under there and it literally just comes up through the floor.
It has to have hydraulics to do that, hydrostatic pressure. And what we're thinking is when we get below on the high side where it's hitting, if we can not spend $100,000, we're going to attempt to get as deep as we can because we believe it is probably traveling down a shelf of rock and coming up with the hydrostatic pressure from that. We're going to be dedicated to getting the leak fixed. And that should be one of the first things we do when we have the money, is to go ahead and hammer that out so we have some time to observe it before we start improving it. But I'm not willing to say that the leak inside's not coming from the roof in extraordinarily hard rain because it's not consistently leaking in that application inside the slab. I think it can be fixed. We just need to get in it and investigate it and have faith that we can figure it out. It's possible, and even if we determine that there's some kind of magical spring underneath it, we can hammer that slab out when we're in there working, put a French drain in it, and drain it to the side. And that's a whole lot cheaper than $400,000 for the same restrooms.
Typically on a drainage issue, you catch it at the source, so that's what we're doing. Whether it be a pasture or a field, you don't go to the middle of the field to drain it. You drain it from the side of the hill so it never gets.
Yes, right. And that's what we're attempting to do by properly hammering out the back of it. We're not even better off building a new building in the same place that already has very adequate restrooms. Matter of fact, you could argue they're the best restrooms we have on the whole campus. You know, and we need to fix the building. Any other questions about that? Here's a picture of the inside of the Welcoming Center. And
I just have one other question. In regard to the doors, you just got one Creo door entering, correct?
I don't know. Entering the glass part of the new surround of the Welcoming Center, okay? Yes, there's 2 doors drawn. We may do a double door. You know, these are renderings, not construction drawings. We're going to really drill down. Like this is a great example of it. Because the glass walls in this Welcoming Center, it would be nice to have a little nook for the brochure cabinets and maybe a couple of chairs in the bend of the handicap. We're going to explore all those sort of things in the final drawings before we get to construction, like space allocation in nursery. All those things are just preliminary renderings right now. And none of the things we're talking about exploring, we'll explore many different things, will particularly change the exterior look, or it just may change how we allocate the space a little bit in different applications.
With looking at that picture right there, as far as welcoming and or setting up a table or whatever, the only place there is
Yeah, it's very limited.
very little, about 6 by 12.
Yeah. We could use a lot more.
I got a suggestion, remove the stairs.
That's exactly what I was trying to say, that and let everybody just walk on the ramp would be the way to do it, giving us a nook to put the cabinets. We don't want to put a cabinet in front of a beautiful glass wall that everybody's looking at from the outside. Those are the type things that will come out in the construction drawings. We hadn't gotten that far.
So Lee, where that stained glass window is, that's where the new door would be coming in off the right?
There's another thing we're going to explore. We may, this drawing has a good showing of it. We're going to explore going in where the 2 windows are and not taking that window out, but it's a more logical place to enter over here to the side, if we can make that work. But we haven't run those traps yet. But any way we do it, a window will have to come out. And then we'll take that window and replace it at this door that's over here that will go out when we take that ramp and stuff out. We're going to explore how it comes in, because it would be better to get over here if we could, instead of coming in right there at the back, more to the side, because these pews over here are kind of wasted from the view of the pulpit and so forth. So there's lots of little nuances that we will be working on. Any other questions? Next slide. Same thing. And you know what Greg was pointing out, there's really no place to put even a couple of chairs and a brochure cabinet. without taking those stairs out. And then that gives us a natural nook to put a little seating area if somebody had a crying baby and wanted to stay with them instead of putting them in the nursery, whatever the case is. We envision that this welcoming center will be where, like, a family is waiting on a funeral to come in. This gives them a place to wait. There can be many functions that happen in this little welcome center that we didn't really provide before. Any questions about this one? Next one. That's an incredible nursery. Who's going to paint all that? Does anybody in here paint that? Molly raised her hand. She can do that? If you can make a nursery look that good, it's incredible. Yeah. Next one. And like I said, all this space in the existing building, other than the restrooms, we can configure any way we want to, very affordable. You know, the main thing is about getting it not leaking and getting it ADA accessible. Next picture. All of Molly's beautiful nursery. Next one. Nursery's better looking than that. We're projecting it to be $900,000. And the board has recommended, and I believe it to be the right thing to do, is to not borrow money to do it. We don't ever want to give the impression that our facilities, much less this project, is more important than our ministry. And so we don't want to do anything to jeopardize the funding of our ministry, because the buildings are worthless without the ministry. You can have the best building in the world and bad ministry, and you're not going to go very far. So if you did the math, we currently have 100 given units. We're a small church, but we're doing an amazing job. Everybody in here is doing an incredible job funding the church and giving of their time to support the ministries. So if you break it down in that sense, let's use a hypothetical, 2 years. That's $9,000 per family unit of 100 given units. That's $4,500 a year, and what is that, $12 a day? It's a Big Mac or a Starbucks a day per unit. We do think that it's the right way to do it without borrowing at this stage of our growth and what we have going on. Because if we have any hiccups, we don't want to have a bunch of debt service. We just need to be patient and pray about it. And I think it's a doable deal. It's something we all can be proud of. While we need it now, we're doing something that they can use for decades to truly solve handicap parking. We haven't even really solved a building that leaks. To truly solve a building that leaks, if it takes $50,000, $70,000 to do it, it's worth it. And it's not only for our benefit, it's for the people that come after us. We should take great pride in that. It should be a lot of fun. Any questions about the money?
Now, on those 700,000, is that today's projection or 2 years down the road?
We don't know what it's going to be 2 years down the road. It is based on today's projection. Brian Gaff, and I asked him to give me an estimate of what he thought it'd cost. He's $500, and I said, "You're crazy. It's too cheap." And he said, "I'm a bad estimator." And I said, "Well, what help is that?" So I used 600, and then I added 50,000 for the rock, and I added 50,000 for contingency and landscape. I used $700,000. I'm not sure that's going to be enough, but it's a start. And as we raise the money, first thing we need to do is hammer the rock. Second thing we need to do is hire him to start the process of doing construction drawings. And because it may take 6 months for him to do that while we are still raising the money. So as we are progressing with it, hopefully very soon we will be doing those two things. Any other questions? Gosh, that's too easy. Do we have any other slides on that? Is that it? Okay.
I don't have a question, I have a thank you. It's very obvious what this team has been through. I've worked in the construction business for my entire life. I've worked with a lot of schools and school boards, and I know what it takes. It takes an amazing amount of time and talent, and I want you all to know that we do appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, we need a motion to proceed with these plans and to raise the $900,000 campaign. So do I have a motion for that? Dan, second? Tom, any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll sing a song before we go. You can adjourn the meeting, and then we'll sing a song. Yep.
Okay. We need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Cindy. That's why I like her so much. And a second, and Daryl seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Before you leave, he wants to sing one more song.
Now would you stand as we sing Go Make of All Disciples together? Go make of all disciples, we hear the call, O Lord, that comes from thee, our Father, in thy eternal word, inspire
Now go in peace. Amen.
Thank y'all.